Report ko. Okay, my report is all about the
Good afternoon, sir.
transition. Wait lang, natatakpan ng ano. Paano ko ba tatanggalin to? Minimize. Okay. The transition to system design. Okay. Transition to system design. If management decide to develop the system in-house, then the transition to system design phase begin. So if we're going to define the in-house, what is in-house? In-house software development is a software development process that is run by a corporate entity for organization usage. Okay, then preparing for system this design. It is essential to have an accurate and understandable. So nakikita ba ako?
Yes, yes.
Hala,
Nakikita ko.
okay
Nakikita,
po.
nakikita ko.
Okay, nasaan na ba ako? Okay, preparing for system design tasks, it is essential to have an accurate and understandable system requirements document. Next, the relationship between logical and physical design. The logical design defines the functions and features of system and relationship among its components. And the methods mainly used for designing, monitoring, and evaluating development project. Then the physical design, the physical design of information system is a plan for actual implementation of system. Okay, so there is guidelines designing guide system design guidelines. Ba't nag-back ako? Okay, the system analyst must understand the logical design of the system before beginning the physical of any one components. The data design, user interface, and the system design specification. So system design objectives, the goals of system design is to build a system that is effective, reliable, and maintainable. System design considerations, user consideration, consideration point where users interact with the system, anticipate future users, system, and organizational needs. Data considerations, the enter data where and when it occurs, verify data where it is input, use automated data entry method whenever possible, control access for data entry, report every instance of entry and change of data, enter data only once. So, asa na ba yung sample? Samples. Samples of system design. This is sample of system design. Then the next is the system design objectives. Okay. Data, data considerations. The data should be entered into system where and when it occurs because delay cause errors. Then data should be verified of data entry or data should be verified of data entry should be used whenever possible. Access for the data entry should be controlled and entries or changes to be critical data. Critical data values should be reported audit trials. Saan ba yun? Okay. Data consideration. Data should be entered into system once only. Data duplication should be avoided. The architecture consideration. Use another design. Design models that perform a single functions are easier to understand or implement and maintain. Next. Okay, design trade-off. Okay, there are three. One, design goals often conflict with each other. So medyo conflict. Most design trade-off decisions that you will face is costly or medyo mahal. Avoid decision that achieve short-term savings but might mean higher cost later. So ito yung sample ng trade-off cost benefits and risk. So the cost, benefits, risk, and trade-off. Sir, yan lang po yung na-search ko. So that will be the end of my report. Sir, saan ba
Okay.
yung camera?
So mag-add na lang ako. I will be adding some. Actually, meron akong binigay na slides dun sa dun sa Google in our Google Classroom. So, but anyway, sige, I will be adding more to your report. So, please wait lang.
Yes po. Lapad mo nga. Hindi ko ma-minimize. Lagot.
Wait. Okay, again, good afternoon. So actually, this is the slides that I have shared in our Google Classroom. So let's just try to browse. Ayaw mag-move. Yeah. So what we have discussed earlier or previously is we have systems planning, and then last time we have systems analysis. So we have the requirements modeling, and then we have process modeling, and then before we start with designing, we actually have more or less two decisions to make. Are we going to make or build our system? That means if we make or build, we're going to create an in-house system. Or are we going to purchase? If we're going to purchase, then we'll be buying a commercial software package. Or we can also buy a commercial software package and at the same time do some customization. That's we have here. We have this intersection here. So these are the two decisions that we're going to do before we actually proceed with the design. if we choose in-house system, then most probably we'll have a lot of work when it comes to designing. But if we choose commercial software package, then there will be minimal designing process because, of course, the software is already done. So let's try to proceed with the next slide. So in-house software. So again, it is an in-house software if it is developed by the company's IS department. So it is developed by by the company itself. And software package, again, it is purchased or leased from software publishers or vendors. So these are the two decisions that uh, should be done before the design. Now, what are the reasons or the advantages in in-house development? So one is satisfy unique requirements. So why do we satisfy unique requirements? For example, we have our procedure in the enrollment, for example, is quite different with the traditional. So if we buy an existing software, chances are that the existing software or the software package may not satisfy our unique requirements because again, it is just like parang ready to wear clothes. Diba? So maybe if you have unique requirements, hindi niya masasatisfy yung unique requirements. But if we do our own, then we can satisfy our unique requirement because we're doing our own system. And of course, because we can satisfy unique requirements, we're going to minimize changes in business procedures and policies. So no need to change business procedures because again, we're going to do our own. It can meet constraints of existing systems. So let's say, for example, we already have an old system, and that old system is already using a database. So since we are doing our own software, we can just maybe convert that existing data so that it will be compatible with our new system. So that's meet constraints of existing systems. Again, if you buy, uh, maybe there's a chance na the data of the new software is not compatible with your old data, or maybe it will be hard to convert your old data into the new data. So then we can also meet constraints of existing technology. What do you mean by that? For example, we already have an old system and we're using Windows, for example. So Windows yung operating system. And then we're going to buy a new system, pero ang gagamitin niya Mac, for example, Mac OS or something. And then the new software or our hardware, for example, our PCs, is not compatible with the new hardware. So yun ang problema because we're just going to buy. So, but if we're going to develop our own, then we can always develop a system that is compatible with our existing technology. And of course, if we do our own, we are also developing our internal resources. So nakahasa yung mga programmers, etc. If you have your own programmers or you have your own IT personnel. So these are some of the reasons for in-house development. Now, there are also reasons for purchasing a software package. That's why I said you have to decide. One is usually a software package has lower cost. Okay? And then it also lesser time to implement. Parang RTW, di ba? Yung, for example, yung damit natahi na. So you can just wear. Parang ganito rin. The system is already done, then you can just implement the system. And sometimes proven reliability and performance benchmarks. So let's say, for example, you want to implement an enrollment system or a school system for your school. Then there's a software that is already being used, for example, by a particular school, na, let's say a prestigious school, ginagamit na niya for 5 years, then we can say that more or less that particular system is already reliable. And then, what if we have less technical development staff? We don't have good programmers in our school, for example, then most probably we cannot just develop our own. So most probably a more logical decision is to buy a software. And here also, the future upgrades will be provided by the vendor. So, siyempre, binili natin yung package. So, upgrades will be provided by the vendor. And instead of using our own resources, other companies will be resources. So, that is if we buy the software package. Now, we can also customize software packages. So, we can buy, so purchase a basic package that can be customized to suit your needs. Because chances are also that, again, it will not satisfy some of your requirements. But again, we can also buy and then suit your needs. So let's say, for example, bumili ka ng pantalon, masyadong
Tailored.
mahaba, paputulan mo, di ba? So the same is true with software. We bought this software, and then there are some requirements that cannot. There are some requirements that are not satisfied by the basic package. Then we can make some revisions.
Kanang i-submit.
So again, we can also negotiate with software vendor to make enhancement to suit your needs. And then, or we can purchase a package and make your own modifications. So these are three ways that we can customize software packages. And aside from these three decisions, we also have other software alternatives. So instead of buying, we can have what we call application service providers. Or sa ngayon, nato we have yung mga cloud-based. So that is an example of application service providers. So instead of buying, pwede yung application service providers, or we can also outsource. Ano yung outsource? I think we have explanation of that on the next in our next slides. So these are three possibilities: application service providers, outsourcing, and end user applications. So yung application service providers, so delivers application by charging a usage or subscription fee. Service provided is called application hosting and offer applications on a rental basis. Actually, this is quite also becoming popular now. So instead of buying the software, we can have it. We can just subscribe to a software. There are softwares now, like for example, the SAP, that can be just subscribed. We can just subscribe rather than buy the software. So sometimes there are advantages because if it is cloud-based, for example, cloud-based kasi, you don't need to install anything in your PC. You can just have an access using of course the internet. So that's one way. Outsourcing, so we can use outside companies to handle portion of the workload or on short-term or long-term basis, contract person,
Contract.
contract personnel firms, system management, or so what does this mean? Let's say, for example, we don't have programmers, we can just hire maybe a company that will develop our system. So that's outsourcing. Then end user system. Let's say, for example, okay, end user system that just first read utilizes standard business software, can offer simple, low cost solutions. Users can design their own data entry forms and reports. So, ano yung end user systems? For example, uh, our employees know how to use Excel, Access, Word, for example, and they want to automate their own work. So parang kanya-kanya. Each end user will create his own system. So of course, that's the cheapest maybe because if you already have your Microsoft Excel, Word installed in their PC, then they can just create their own. But of course, maybe that's not the most efficient uh, solution because again, there will be no sharing of data or minimal sharing of data, etc. But that's again, that's just an option. So yeah, so after that, so completion of systems analysis, system requirements documents, also called software requirements specification. This is our output for the systems analysis. So it's called system requirements document. So describes alternatives and makes recommendations to management. So it's similar to a contract for what will be delivered because again, if you're going to look at systems analysis, what we have done in systems analysis is we have made a list of the requirements. Diba? Sa requirements modeling, we actually do some fact finding to know the requirements. So we have that list, and that list will be our checklist, and that will be our contract also. So the design should be able to satisfy these requirements, and that will be placed in this software requirements or system requirements document. So again, it must be clear and understandable to users, of course, because again, that will be our contract. So once you do your once you are through with the document, so you have to present, of course, your document or your output to the management. So we are through with our systems analysis. So what we're going to do is to present to the management. And then the management will, of course, decide. And these are 5 of the probable management decisions. One, maybe the management will decide that we develop an in-house system. So maybe we have the programmers, maybe we can develop our own in-house system. Or maybe the management will just decide that anyway, we have an existing system, let us just modify the current system. Or the management can also decide to purchase and or customize a software package. Or number 4, if the management was not satisfied with your analysis, maybe the management will instruct you to perform additional systems analysis work. Or number 5, the management can also decide to stop all further work. Okay, so these are the probable management decisions. So transition to system design. So essential to have an accurate and understandable system requirements document. Errors, omissions, and ambiguities will affect the quality of the finished product. Of course, if you have errors in your system requirements, then most probably the designer will also have an error. That's why it should be accurate. Systems design overview. So logical design defines the function and features of the system. Usually, the part of systems analysis is more on logical design, the systems analysis. And when it comes to the design, the systems design, it's more on physical because what we're doing will be the actual appearance of the screen, etc. So yan yung physical design. So the relationship between analysis and design. The design phase cannot begin until analysis work is complete. Of course, as I've said, we have said a while ago, that our output in our systems analysis is actually our contract. It has all the list of the requirements that should be satisfied. So it is but natural that we should not begin our design phase if our analysis is not complete. So should return to analysis phase only in very limited situations. Let's say, for example, there are some changes in our plan or changes in the requirement, then we can go back to analysis phase. But it should be only in very limited situations. Yeah, so that ends the systems transition to systems design. So, and that's just an additional to what Sir Jepoy had reported a while ago. Yeah. So, I think mas marami tayo ngayon. So, let's have another screenshot. So, please open your webcams again. Yan, okay na siguro. Okay, so again, 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2, 3. Para makita yung beautiful faces din niya. Sandali lang. Okay, we have a few minutes left dito sa ating Zoom session. So anyway, I have already posted your midterm exams in our Google Classroom. Actually, I'm not very familiar with Google Classroom because we are using Edmodo in our undergrad class. And I was also using Edmodo in my graduate school class last trimester. But since I believe that most of the teachers at graduate school are using Google Classroom, so I use also Google Classroom for this semester or this trimester. So now I have posted your midterm exams. Now, if you encounter some problems in accessing your midterm exams or maybe in turning in your answer, so just feel free to message me. Kasi I'm not sure kung hindi ko nakikita kung ano yung sa screen niyo, kung ano yung nakikita niyo doon. What I see is just my yung faculty version, but I don't know what can you see in your student version. So again, if you encounter any problem, just try to message. Okay, so wala na ba? Now, I hope you will have very enough time para sa inyong midterm exam. That will be due next week. So you have 1 week. Dahil lang yun. Just read the case. Then I believe at the end of the case, there are 3 questions. So just answer the 3 questions. And that's it. And more or less, it will cover, I think, parang systems, baka more on systems planning lang yun. It's more on systems planning.
Sir,
Sir, may tanong lang po ako.
Okay. Sige. Sino yun?
Sir, tawag dito, sa Google po, doon po namin makikita yung mga slides and yung mga discussions natin.
Actually, may sinabi ko yun kasi marami palang yung mga hindi naka-join ka agad nung una. I think may nilagay ko doon ng
sir,
slides.
At saka, honestly sir, ano po kasi medyo malayo po yung distance ko. Malayo po talaga yung ito yung time zone po natin. Kaya hindi ko rin po maano din.
Actually, may mga nilagay nga ako doon. So what I've said last time, nung unang-unang first meeting siguro is, you can use that kahit na as is, or if you want, you can just do minor modifications para more or less magkakatuma doon sa topic. Ganun doon.
Sige sir, salamat
pero,
po.
Pero I think yung iba kasi naubusan nung slides na yun. Kaya yung iba na yung topic, wala doon sa mga slides. Kaya yung iba talaga maghanap na lang sa internet. O yung iba pa.
Yung sa report po namin, sir, na Introduction to Data Analytics. Meron po ba kayong ibibigay sa amin na reference na we can use ni Ma'am Sharon?
Hindi ko pa ba naibibigay yun?
Yung intro po, Introduction of Data Analytics po.
Hindi ko pa naibigay?
Nabigay nyo na, hindi pa po. Yung reference.
Yung practical analytics, gano'n?
Yes po.
Hindi pa ba? Sige.
Hindi pa po, sir.
Hindi, sinabi ko yata sa inyo last meeting na ikulit niyo ako ng weekdays kasi baka nandun sa...
Sorry, sir. Sige, sir.
Baka nasa computer ko sa school yata yung...
sige, sir. Opo. Sige po.
Yun ang nasabi ko yata.
Next Sunday po. Bukas, sir.
Okay. Sige.
Sige po. Thank you, sir. Mag-message na lang po kami ni Ma'am Shah.
Okay. Sige.
God bless po.
Okay, sige. Meron pa. Meron pa. We should have around 3 minutes.
Sir lang, this is Mr. Ray.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was late in, joining the class. And then last meeting, I joined the class, but you know what? I used my iPad, so the name there was iPad. I was not able. Did you notice that?
Yes, I noticed that. No problem.
It was me.
Yes, I know. I know, sir.
Thank you. So exam will be, we have the exam and turn it on next Sunday, right?
And, until next Sunday.
Okay. So if we have for our, if we have some question, you can just message you, right?
Okay, okay. That's it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, so if you don't have any more questions, we can just end our session so that you can start working on your midterm exams.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thank you, Sir Jepoy, also for your report.
Thank you, Sir Jepoy.